Today, for our week one assigned reading, we were going to read chapter 1, 2, and 3. And then our after reading assignment is, how does this week's reading inspire you to change or improve a specific aspect of your personal and professional life, your business, and your family, and your hobbies? What are you going to do to change it based off what you read? Now, I think we should break this up into chapter by chapter. There
Okay.
was that pre part where it says we aren't supposed to be this lonely. It's at the beginning of the book. I would just like to say that I connected with a couple of things in that first part there. So, like, even before getting into this week's reading, I was like, okay, this makes sense to me. Like, every human is looking to be seen, soothed, and safe.
Yep. Yeah, there were some parts of that was it a prologue
Yeah, it's like a prologue.
that really I connected with, and I even told my partner about it because he was sitting next to me and I was reading it and I just stopped and I go, wow. And
Yeah.
he's like, what? And I said, there's this part. I said, and it's before you even get into the book where she explains how she got to this point, and I felt it.
Mm. The loneliness, like
Yeah.
just
Yep.
uh and like she said, like here, one by one, I went to my people and did exactly what I used to be terrified to do. I openly acknowledged that I needed them. And we take people for granted. We get busy in our day-to-day lives. And her issue, she was in Austin, and I have lived around Austin. While Austin is a fantastic community, it is so wide and there's a lot of distance there.
Yeah.
And so she she was alone. Um, she even said, we trade, she wants us to trade our lonely and isolated lives that experience brief bursts of connectedness for intimately connected lives that know only brief intervals of feeling alone. And I felt that. I was like, okay, we're surrounded by people. We have more connection to people than ever. And yet I feel like the majority of the time we're alone, except for the brief moments when we connect with others.
Well, and you got to look at the way the world is today. Sometimes those, what people call connection, is through their phone or through their computer. And it's not true connection because you don't feel the emotions radiating off of people through a phone line or through a video call.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're sitting in front of someone, you're able to look them in the eye and see, if they're starting to tear up, you can see it when you're there,
Mhm.
and
I
it's
think
different.
you get more vulnerable. You get more to the point of being able to tear up when you're in front of a person because you have this other amplified energy that we don't get when we're alone. And when we're just talking, like even like this, I'm very blessed that I get to spend time with you in a couple of days because then I get to feel that connection that, like, right now it's great. We're connecting, we're bonding, we're growing, but getting together in person, having people in person, it's just, it's
Right.
important.
Yep.
Chapter one, the first freaking statistic they threw out, 3 in 5 Americans report being chronically lonely, and the number is on the rise. It's
Yeah.
continuing to grow. That's anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. And loneliness is worse for our health than obesity, smoking, lack of access to healthcare, and physical inactivity.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we are more lonely as a society than ever.
Right.
So
And
it's unhealthy.
right. I mean, you look at the instances of, again, I'm big on social media and overuse of it. I mean, social media is great, but when you overuse it, you think you're connected, but then when you're done using it for however long, you're instantly unconnected. I have seen, and I have actually experienced a panic attack almost when I didn't have my phone with me.
Hmm.
And I had to sit and think about that and like, why? Why did I feel that way? I am not on social media as much as a lot of other people are, but it's still when I wasn't connected or didn't have that connection available,
Yeah.
then I felt like I had no connection.
And it almost gets like a hold of you too, because that's where our connection is essentially, is where we've built it. But that's not what we need. We need people who live on our mission, who can challenge us to
Right.
continue on our mission. And community is the way we live. And if we don't have that, we just have this facade of a community because social media is fake. Like
Right.
what you see on social media is somebody's doctored up version of themselves.
Yep. You don't know who they truly are because you're not there in front of, you don't even know if that's really them.
Mhm. Yeah. And not even that, but like social media allows you access to tens of thousands of people. But really, our like major acquaintances, our big circle can only hold like 150 acquaintances. Like
Right.
we can only hold so many people. So 4,000, 5,000 friends on Facebook, a lot of those aren't even your acquaintances.
Right.
They're just there and you're, devoting so much of your time and your energy and your effort into putting on a performance for other people that aren't really in your inner circle and aren't furthering you, aren't challenging you to become a better person. You're just entertaining them.
Right. I tried challenging um my little sister the other day.
Yeah.
She is, I mean, she's a socially awkward person. She doesn't go out, she doesn't do anything, she doesn't drive, she doesn't have a job. She's over 18 and stays home all the time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Social media is her life. And I told her, I said, you should watch this movie. It's like, it's not even a B movie. It's not even a C, it's a D movie at best.
Those are sometimes the best, though. Okay.
And I said, you should watch this. And she looked it up on her phone and she's like, oh yeah, that looks hilarious. She goes, I'm arranging with my friends so that we can watch this. And I looked at her and I said, what friends? And she goes, ow, I have friends. I said, you have acquaintances on social media. Those aren't friends, not really. They don't know you. They don't care about you like a true friend would.
They don't show up at your house for your movie night.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
little bit different than like posting it on social media. I mean, it's great that you can include people from all over the world and get them involved in what you like, but they're your acquaintances. They're not your true friends. They're not a drop it all. I will be there Friday night. I'm bringing the popcorn,
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the friend that we really need, that kind of community where someone will literally just show up in the middle of the day and be like, I'm here, bestie. What do we have in the fridge?
Yep. Or someone, that when you're upset and you're like crying and you let them know, I'm so upset, I'm hurt, and they come running over to your house without you even saying anything,
Yeah.
with your favorite snack and your favorite drink and come and sit with you.
Mhm.
That's the type of friends and that's the type of connection I think we all need.
Yeah, absolutely. And she even mentioned that in the book, like she was crying to her friend. She had gotten to this point where she felt so alone that she was crying to her friend for advice, for help. And her friend said, I have never felt more wanted or needed.
Right. Yeah,
It's you
when
being
you allow
vulnerable.
yourself to be vulnerable and open up to your friends in that way, they feel needed, you feel heard,
Hmm.
and that makes a world of difference.
Exactly. It makes you feel safe. You get
Hmm.
soothed. Your other person feels needed, like they're wanted. And so it kind of hits all that dynamic, except you also have to be the one that's there to support your friend when they cry. Because it can't be a one-way thing. You got to be like, oh, tough it up, sister. No, we got to support each other in our own tears. And like even that's just so precious to me. That movie Midsummer, okay. I know the context is really bad because it was a cult, but these women were wailing, they were crying, they were mourning a trauma together. And it made me cry in the movie because I'm like, that's what I want. That's when I'm crying, when I'm mourning something, I want other people to be there to support me and to feel that pain too. Not necessarily, but it just makes you feel more supported. And I think it would help the healing if instead of people shoving things under the rug and hiding it and feeling shame with how we're feeling, and instead bringing it to each other and allowing other people to feel it too. That's where we build our bonds, our connection with other people.
Right. Yep.
And I think we are built for deep connection.
Yeah. I mean, she even brought in the biblical aspect of it, which, if someone is a Christian and they believe in the Bible, this would still be a great book because it talks about how in the Bible, it says, do not forsake the gathering of yourselves together.
Mm-hmm. And
So it's
even,
telling you that you need that connection with your tribe, with your people.
yeah. And even if you're not a Christian,
Yeah.
this book is heavily Christian. There are so many scriptures in here. I am an optimistic agnostic. I feel like there's some purpose, some divine being, and that if I live a just, beautiful life, then I would be allowed interest into whatever afterlife there is to be had. So I'm not very big on like reading the Bible. And there are a lot of Bible and biblical scriptures mentioned in this book. But when they say God, I take that as my version of God, what I see as God. You could even just change out the word God for love. In the Bible, it says God is love. So it's not a huge shift to read these scriptures and say that love wants us to be connected.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
it's true. That doesn't go away. And those scriptures, like you said, that's so valuable. We should not forsake being connected with each other. That's what love wants, is that connection. And we live guarded and we fear being vulnerable with each other. And so she mentions how that is sin and the shame that's holding you back, and that the devil, Satan, whatever you want to call him, evil, wants you to be guarded.
Yep.
Because if you're guarded, then you're not being vulnerable and you're not making true connections. And what do life is about connection and our experience with other people and how we inhabit this world and impact each other.
Right.
So that's really my like major takeaway from this. Like it says, okay, relationships are the greatest gift we have on earth and the most difficult part.
Yep.
That is
So
so true.
true.
Oh yeah, like amazing love relationships. And she's like, yeah, I know you're going to have to open yourself up. That means you're going to get hurt because we really get hurt by people we open ourselves up to. But you kind of have to do it to build the community that you need.
Yep.
So, chapter 2, the connection we crave. Consider what you're aiming your hope toward. who is in the center of your affections, who is in the center of your identity. We all have a choice. The answer will determine whether you live fulfilled or repeatedly disappointed.
Yeah.
You
And I
want to
like
make
the
a
part
connection.
where she's talking about her move. And, she even says in here, we move to cool cities. We move for higher paying jobs. We choose colleges for their reputation, churches for their preaching, hunt for the dream home in the right neighborhood. But are we happy?
Yeah.
I mean, you
The
may
big
have
one.
these
Are we?
things. Yeah, but are you happy? And, it's like when she talked about moving and then trying to find a babysitter, she was under so much stress that she sat in front of this babysitter, just bawling her eyes
Yeah.
out,
Like a therapist session.
bawling her eyes out. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm such a mess. And this college girl said, I don't get flustered easy. So basically telling her, go ahead,
Yeah.
tell me
Like,
your
it's
fears
hard.
and your problems. Go ahead. I can take it.
Yeah.
So
And
it's like,
that little boost there too kind of let you know that, like, yeah, it is okay for me to be vulnerable and to share this with other people because I'm not going to be pushed away. And she was able to take away so much more from that than if she
mhm.
were to hide in the closet crying by herself.
Yep.
She's able to heal a little bit faster by being able to divulge that to another person. It's though recognizing that you need help before you get to the point where you're breaking down to your babysitter, recognizing that you need help and need to have that community, but she didn't have that.
Right. Yeah.
And, we get desperate and we get like, come on, please, I need help. I need community. I need to feel connected because that's what we're here for. And that's not what she was getting. So,
Yeah, I know
one
in this
thing,
chapter she talks a lot about God and the Bible, but I like the part where she's talking about how did we get to this point of such extreme independence that we don't have a community anymore.
exactly. And that's where I was gonna. Well, it's like we are brainwashed that being a self made woman, making our own way, striving for personal achievement are the goals of our brief, beautiful lives. We have taken the bait, believing that siloed, individualistic, pulled yourself up by your bootstraps living will somehow satisfy in the end. We
Yep.
get that. We get told, hey, I'm a self made woman. I've done this and this and this. I have pulled myself out of poverty and now I have a six-figure business, right?
Yep.
I've pulled myself out of this and I've made my way up here and I built this all by myself. And that's amazing. Like an achievement to progress. But when you leave out the community aspect, you miss out on so much more you could have had in your journey. In building yourself up, you would have learned 10 times more when building yourself up with a community.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
the part in chapter 2 that really just the last few sentences. Sorry, the last few sentences, and it's something I've said, it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a village to create a full and thriving life for adults too. And it
yeah.
says it doesn't happen by accident. You have to build a new life. So, I
Uh,
mean, there are times when I see someone that's lonely or they talk about how lonely they are and they're just staying in their house and they're not doing anything and they're not going anywhere. And I'm like, get out,
of course, you're lonely.
go walk around Walmart, even if you don't need anything. Just push a cart, look at things, look at people, smile,
Smile. Say hello
say
to
hello.
5 people. Make it like a little thing. Like, I am going to go up to 5 people and say, I hope you're having a wonderful day.
Yeah, just that brief connection, that 2 seconds is such a boost. I mean, there were times when I was on my own, divorced. I had children. They were with their dad, so I was by myself. And I would be feeling that loneliness without the kids there. And I'm like, I can't do this. So I would get up and get out, go get a coffee, go sit in a restaurant and just sit there and drink a cup of coffee for a couple of hours,
Yeah.
and just look at people and smile and say hello and have a conversation with your waitress if it's a slow moment.
It's
Just
not easy, but that certainly made you feel better than staying home.
right. I
You're still
felt that real
lonely.
brief connection with
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah. That's how much we need people, is just like you're still technically lonely, but even being around other people makes you feel better.
Yeah, because you're not alone.
Yeah.
All of us feel lonely at some time, at some point. But when you're alone and feeling lonely, you need to move out of the alone part for a few minutes.
Yeah. Yes. One of the things that she mentioned, bringing it back to like how we've become so lonely. She mentioned in we're going to move on to, chapter 3. And she mentioned this community in Africa.
Yes. Yes. I read that part and I was like, it is so true. It's
It
true.
breaks my heart that just so simple, so simple. So these women in Africa, while very poor, they would get together and wash their laundry and talk and connect and cry and bond. And they were a very happy village. And then they started getting resources that allowed them to get more money, which allowed them to change their lifestyle to make it more simple. So what did they do? They went and got washing machines. Now they don't have to sit by the creek and freaking wash that by hand. So much simpler to do laundry. They got depressed. They got so depressed because they weren't connecting. Instead of going to the river and washing with your community and connecting and bonding, they were now doing their laundry by themselves, like removing that community bonding aspect, and got depressed. They weren't happy.
Yeah. And that's not to say we want to tell people you need to get rid of your washing machine and go to the river and wash your clothes.
Maybe no.
But it's showing how you go from this to suddenly this, and how that affects your loneliness and your mental and physical well-being. I mean,
Yeah.
it took out the physical part of it too, because they weren't walking, they weren't doing that exercise, they weren't having that connection. I mean, when you get together with some friends and hang out, the laughing, the talking. I mean, sometimes you laugh so much, your face hurts, your belly hurts, and how good you feel.
Yeah.
Because it
And
is
they
a
love that.
well-known scientific fact that laughter boosts those feel-good hormones,
Mhm.
and it makes you feel nice.
Yeah. And connected.
Mhm.
And they lost all of that. It was like I cried. I was like, no, no, get rid of those washing machines.
Throw them out.
Go back to the river. Because even if it is a little more work, it was worth it.
Right. Yeah.
And when you're doing that together, it doesn't feel like as much work either, because time passes when you're having fun, when you're bonding with
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah,
So
you're chatting and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, we're done already? What else are we going to do? We need to do something."
mhm.
I mean, that's when they would make their plans to, let's share a meal, let's get together and cook for both of our families together tonight, or what are you cooking for your family tonight? Maybe we can, get together and, you know, get to, do that. I mean, that's something I remember we used to do when I was a kid, have people over.
Mhm.
friends and people in the religion and the church that my mom is a part of. We would have people over a couple times a week for a meal and games and whatever.
Yeah. And I miss that
That
connection,
connection. Yeah.
that getting together, and I aim to do more of it. Um, to wrap this up, she wanted us to consider what life looked like in the Garden of Eden and the realities. Like, there's proximity. They enjoyed physical closeness to each other and to God or love. Transparency. They were naked and unshamed. They were fully known, fully transparent. They fully loved. They were accepted. They had no shame, which means they could be completely vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't feel like, if I'm vulnerable, this person's going to hurt me. They didn't have that. They had full trust. Accountability. They lived under submission to love God, God and love, and to each other. So they were holding each other accountable to having a healthy, vulnerable, open,
Mm-hmm.
positive, trusting life and relationship. They had a shared purpose. They were given a clear calling to care for creation, to care for life. And I think that's everyone's calling. We're here to make a positive impact on this world, on the inhabitants of this world, human and non-human, all animals, all insects, everything. We're all put here for a purpose to make a positive change.
Mm-hmm.
And so finding people that have a shared purpose, it's very important to propelling you to making a bigger impact. Consistency. They couldn't quit each other. They needed each other and shared everything. This is the framework for how we build healthy community in our lives today. So based off this, what is one thing that you can change in your life, in your personal or professional life today, based off the first 3 chapters?
It's that connection, just letting people know, even in your professional life, if you own a company or whatever, letting people know that you're open to communication. You have a problem, please let me know. Maybe I can help you. Maybe I can have some ideas that you haven't thought of. Maybe
Yeah.
I know someone who could help you. Just being open and honest communication from your employers, your employees, your coworkers, those around you, and in your family, especially your family.
Mhm.
Let them know that you can come to me with anything. I may not always like what you have to say, but that's the part of being open and available to that
Yeah,
communication.
exactly. I also took away that connection, that we needed to foster more of it within our business and within our personal life. So we find people that fit the community that we need in order to make the positive impact we need to make,
Mhm.
business and personal. The people you surround yourself with really matter. So if you surround yourself with people who are unmotivated, who just want the status quo, who don't want to challenge anything, who aren't really here to make an impact, they just want to get from day to day, then it's going to cause you to start to become that kind of person, because that's what you're surrounding yourself with. So surrounding yourself, family that support you and push you forward and motivate you and encouraging you. And you doing the same with them. And
Mhm.
then the same with business, finding that community, fostering connections and networking, developing a community. Find local businesses you can partner with and build an impact by partnering and building a community with positive and impactful people.
Yep, exactly.
Right? All righty. So that wraps up this week's reading, and on to next week's.
Yay. I'm looking forward to it.